This week on Barbell Shrugged, we interview Steve Heidemann, a man who fell off a cliff into a fire and lived to tell the story.
All right, I'm here, guys.
Barbell Shrugged is brought to you by you. To learn more about how you can support the show, go to barbellshrugged.com and sign up for the newsletter.
Down just a little bit. I have sensitive ears.
A little hot.
Welcome to Barbell Shrugged. I'm Mike Bledsoe here with Doug Larson, Chris Moore, CTP behind the camera. We have traveled to Phoenix, Arizona to attend and actually participate in the Rush Club event here. If you don't know what that is, just was it rushclub.com?
Rushclubnation.com.
Rushclubnation.com. Check that out. So we're going to be capturing some interviews here, hanging out and having a good time. Our first guest that we've snagged is Steve Heidemann.
Welcome, Steve, man.
Hey, guys. Good to see you. Good to be here.
We brought Steve in because AJ was like, sometimes when people go, oh, this guy's got a cool story, I'm like, yeah.
Yeah,
He's like,
skepticism at first.
and he's like, yeah, this guy, like, he lost a lot of weight. And I was like, all right, a lot of people lose a lot of
Former
weight.
fatty,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yep.
And then, he got more into your story. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, let's talk to this guy.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
You had like a Rasputin-style death almost.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, it was reckless and then rebirth, right? I am the Phoenix from Phoenix.
You want to tell everybody what happened?
Yeah, well, hang on. Before we go any further, make sure you go to barbellshrug.com, sign up for the newsletter, and we're going to post up really cool information to you.
You'll be so amazed. Man.
So amazed.
God.
If you're not happy with it,
Go somewhere else.
yeah, why are you here?
No, I'm just kidding.
So when I first heard what happened to you, I thought about, you watch Family Guy?
Yes.
You know, like the epic chicken fights that Peter has with the chicken? That's what I thought when I heard your story. I was like, fuck, it was like one bad thing after another.
It was
like
crazy.
Like an epic Family Guy fight.
So-
like a cartoon almost.
So, flashback to 2009.
Yeah.
And I'm at my sister-in-law's wedding, and I see pictures of myself, and I'm like, holy cow, man, I'm huge. I stepped on the scale, I was 300 pounds.
Yeah.
Right?
What's your height?
5'8". So I was.
You weren't carrying it so solidly.
I was like a mini fridge, right? They called me the dorm fridge, right?
The dorm fridge.
So I knew I had to do something about it. So
Yeah.
I had never been a gym guy traditionally. I mean, I'd lifted weights in high school and stuff like that for football and track and whatnot, but never enjoyed the routine,
The exercise?
No, I like the exercise, but I
Yeah.
never liked like the monotony of the routines, right? And so I was like, I can't go to a gym. I'm never going to stick with it. What can I do? And I started hiking. And because Arizona is one of the beautiful things about Arizona is we got
Gorgeous
some of the
here.
best hiking
yeah.
in the country,
Yeah.
if not the world, depending on your preferred biome. But that's a whole other story. So I started hiking, and a few years I just got into it. Every weekend it was Friday night, boom, out in the desert, come back Sunday night, and for several years, and started to really get into rope, canyoneering and moving through space with ropes and things like that. And one of the things I'd never done was do a trip where I had to actually drop a rope, pull it, and then drop another rope, multiple descents, right? Basically, what happens when you head down a canyon, you're just heading down waterfalls, stream courses, and at certain points there's waterfalls, right? So my wife and I went out one morning to practice some rope retrieval techniques. And we climbed to the top of the rock. It's a 150-foot rock. It's a well-known rock out here called Coon Bluff that everybody down by the Salt River, that a lot of people practice rock climbing on. Mm-hmm. Got to the top of the rock, no problem. That was easy. And then once we got to the top, we set our anchor and started to. My wife Jean started to go, and she's stopped. She's like, I can't do it. I'm like, what do you mean you can't do it? She's like, well, I just. I can't. She was so afraid for some reason.
Got a bad heebie-jeebie vibe.
Yeah,
huh?
exactly. And so I'm like, okay, well,
Shit.
you pussy, I'll go first. Well, it was a blind drop, which is not, the most comforting thing in the world. And
Right.
so I went, and I started heading down the wall, and I looked down for my landing, and I saw, I was about 80 feet down at the time, and I saw that there was a boulder right in my drop path, right? So I was like, okay, well, rather than do what I should have done, which is wrap onto the boulder, reset, and then wrap off,
Right.
right to the ground, I started to get cute with it. So I came down the wall a little bit more.
Did you know you were being cute at the time?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
And I didn't have a, I mean, this is pure human error, guys. Like anybody listening or watching, like, you know, this is not a gear failure. This was a me failure.
Right.
I love how the cues were there. Like, is this a good idea, Coach? We're doing it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We're doing it.
In your
We're
mind, the
going
conversation's happening. Like, no, we're gonna be cute with this. All right, fine.
Yeah,
all right.
that's and
Just no matter what you do, don't land on the boulder.
the universe was screaming at me like all morning. Just a whole bunch of things like, don't do this, right?
Right.
I'd had the stomach flu all week, both ends, the worst I'd had in a long time. So I was just depleted. And
So you were at your lightest ever, probably.
Probably, yeah, exactly. Well,
were fitting for the show.
prior to the accident, right? Then I started to kind of swing my rope a little bit, move across the face of the wall, just being lazy, stupid. And I swung, and I was paying too much attention to the boulder below me and not enough attention to the wall. And there was a little concave area that, I didn't realize that the wall wasn't flat all the way across. It kind of jut in. So as I'm watching the boulder, I thought I was stepping into wall. I was stepping into air, right? And so when I stepped, I did something really stupid, which was release my lower anchor to swing, right? Which is you never do. You never grab the top of the rope. You always grab the bottom of the rope, obviously, because you're above that, and hopefully you're not going to lose yourself. So I grabbed the top of the rope. I stepped into air, and I just went bam. Zoom. Yep, 4 stories in 3 seconds. Just doom. 40 feet down to the ground.
Does anything occur to you right then?
Oh,
It's like you were like
your whole fucking life,
yeah,
probably.
right. Oh, fuck.
Well, I wanna know, 'cause
it was
you-
too fast for my
You really
whole
had a
life.
moment where you're like,
I'm going to die. No, I'm going to die.
I thought moments
I was
where I
going
was
to die.
simulated where I could die. Like, shit, this could be dangerous if it wasn't for a ride or something. But I've never been like, oh shit, this is it.
Yeah.
Like, it's over.
Yep. And
You
that's what went through my mind. I'm going to die. And then I really didn't have time for anything else. Like when I think back on the incident, right? I try to picture it second by second, and all I can see is black and blackness and my orange rope. My rope was orange, and that's all I can see in my head. Until I remember hitting the ground and looking up, because when I landed feet down, right, and then went down to my knee. But so what happened? Which actually the guy said probably saved my life. And I landed in a fire pit, so there was lots of ash, an active fire pit. But we'll get that to that.
I heard it. Don't blow it.
Yeah.
You landed on fire.
Yeah, right. That's called a teaser. I landed on fire. So what happened was they say that basically it was like hitting the ground with the force of being hit by a car going 60 miles an hour. And it traveled. Apparently, the shock traveled up my legs, right, and into right at my T12 vertebrae, and burst it. And I got bone in the spinal cord, and I cracked my T11 vertebrae in half. And I'm at the bottom of a rock with a few people around. Pretty hard to evac, right? So
And you're on fire.
And I'm on fire, which I didn't know at the time because I couldn't feel my legs.
Oh, wow.
Right.
So what are the odds that you fall off a mountain and you land in a fire?
Exactly, right?
Jesus.
Let alone
if
a
you're going
space.
to be on fire, you might as well be paralyzed and not be able to feel it.
Exactly. Like all things, silver lining, all things being equal.
Try to be positive
right?
here.
It's a good thing. So I'm at the bottom of the rock, and I don't, pain is bad. I was going to try to get up. Thank God there was a guy there that was
no, bro, you should totally
stay down. Right? So what he said was, "You're lucky you're not dead. So just stay there." And he got a hold of. He immediately called. 911 was the Boy Scout. He was a scout leader, and there was a troop of Boy Scouts there. Right? So the Boy Scouts basically, I can picture it like, he's like, all right, young men, we're going to have a lot of fun today. We've got some scenarios set up for you for your first aid merit badge.
Fat guy fell off a mountain and turned everything.
Yeah, fat guy falls up behind me, right? So yeah, man, the Boy Scouts, local troop saved my life. They're like, they got the ambulance coming like immediately. And, somebody had to go up and get my wife, and they're like, your husband. Well, she wasn't my wife at the time. She was my girlfriend of several years. She's like, your husband's at the bottom of the thing. He fell, right? She's like, oh fuck, he's still alive. Okay, that's good.
Oh, she wasn't there when you fell.
No, she couldn't. And
she
like
could
I said, it was a
see you.
blind drop,
so
she couldn't see anything.
No.
She didn't know any. And it's 140 feet, so it's not.
Whoa.
It's not that. It's not short, right?
Man, that's probably better for her. She had fucking nightmares about watching you fall.
Oh yeah, she's
the landing and all
she
that.
would not have wanted. She would not have wanted that burden on her shoulders for sure.
No, it reminds me of that movie Cliffhanger.
Yeah, that's
At
right.
the beginning of that movie.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
he
that's
drops
right.
the girl and he just watches her fall.
It's about the Sylvester Stallone movie.
That's right, dude.
And he
With
wakes
John
up in
Lithgow.
cold. Wakes up in
Oh
cold.
yeah, I remember that now.
Wakes up in cold Stallone sweats for the rest of his life.
That's right.
I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore. It's too much pain, coach.
No. So it seems like you made, to sum up, a lot of mistakes, a lot of dumb shit.
Yep.
And then the universe did bail you out magnificently by this, having you fall into the care of very prepared young children.
Yes, exactly. Very prepared. Thrifty, loyal, brave, trustworthy, reverent, and kind too.
Do you feel like maybe the embers, cushion
That's what
your
I'm saying.
fall a little bit?
That's what I think too. Exactly. It's
Yeah?
like because a couple of months ago, a group of rescue climbers was out and they fell 10 feet less than I did, and they didn't make it. I mean, I guess 10 feet less. I don't want to say like, ooh, 10 feet less, but
Well, all you need is a little bit of
I'm just
damper.
saying how lucky I am, right?
Yeah,
like how I get goosebumps all the time when I think of when I see other things
think
happen.
if it
Let
slowed
alone
you-
the fact that I didn't get a complete spinal cord injury. Well, apparently they thought I did, but I got lucky. Like I'm one of the guys that I had in my chart, in my medical stuff, it says complete spinal cord injury.
They assumed it would.
But-
like, how would it survive that injury? They assumed.
That's what I mean. I don't know. Like I said, I've done everything right. Like I immediately got into. Well, we'll get to that. But so anyway,
What was your weight? You said you started.
I was probably 230 at the time.
So you'd gone
220.
from 300 to 230.
Yeah, so I felt, I kind of
That's
felt.
still really big. You weren't like a spry mountain climber.
When I look at my pictures, like I felt spry, obviously, right?
because you were less fat.
Exactly.
As somebody who's
It's kinda
been fat himself, I know it's like
kinda
you're still fat.
Yeah, it's being the best ballerina in Des Moines, Iowa. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
Who gives a shit? I mean, but I felt good about it, and which actually maybe had something to do with, I don't know, maybe could I have held myself if I was lighter? I don't do what ifs, but I see, I see the issues, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm at the bottom of the mountain, and the ambulance comes. Then they call the chopper, and I get choppered in. They shoot me with morphine. Well, before
that's great.
I totally skipped over the fire. So that was the best part. So everybody, that's the part that everybody thinks is the
It's only the worst
craziest.
part.
So
that's what caught my attention. I was like, he fell into a fire.
I'm laying. Nobody knew it was a fire. They thought it was out, right? Because they'd covered it with sand, and they thought they'd
Because
put
they were
it out.
prepared,
Well, that's what I'm saying. They might have got their first aid merit badge, but the fire
Only
building
you
merit
can
badge,
prevent a forest
fire
fire.
safety merit badge. Yeah, Smokey would be pissed.
Yeah.
We need to take those badges away from those kids.
I think there may be a ceremonial stripping.
You shit kids need to get your skills
Right?
together.
The ceremonial stripping.
Now look down. Don't look me in the eyes. Don't look me in the eyes. So I'm like, all of a sudden I start to smell smoke, and I'm like, guys,
Something smells good.
And I look, and I go like this, and all of a sudden smoke starts to billow up from under me. I'm like, holy cow, guys, I'm in a fire. And they're like, no, that's just the nerve tingling. It feels like burning because of the injury you have. But I'm like,
Are these
no.
like EMTs?
These are EMTs telling me
Okay,
this.
not Boy Scouts.
Exactly. No, this is not
Boy
Boy
Scouts
Scouts.
like your nerve endings.
Yeah, right. Here's what you
hell
got to
do you know,
understand.
kid?
Here's what you got to understand about neurological injuries. This will
Kids chewing Laffy Taffy.
Here's what you got to
telling what's wrong
understand
with-
about neurological injuries.
I got
So
a badge in this
I'm
shit.
like, no, I'm in a fire. No, literally, and I start to blow, and all of a sudden, a flame, and he's like, holy shit. So yeah, they pick up my leg, and it's third-degree burns, like right here, which I got my braces on.
Yeah.
I don't have any. I got everything to the knees basically. My hips and glutes have come in last. I'm weak there, but
Yeah.
This is
wow.
This is the remains of the day.
Oh, nice.
Yo.
Yep, it was actually. They say in the hospital they said this was my worst. Like once I got through the spinal stabilization surgery and didn't get spinal shock,
Right.
and all that stuff, they're like, this was the worst thing. They were the most worried about that.
Is that something that can get infected bad enough where they might have to amputate your leg? Were they worried about that?
imagine.
Yes, not only because it was like it was grilled hamburger.
Charred black.
But then
It was
structurally,
ridiculous. I got pictures if you guys want to see them.
To the bone, I
Not
guess.
on me, man, but
Sure.
were your legs fractured pretty bad too, or?
no. The only thing that was fractured was my back.
Wow.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that's what I'm saying.
I figured your femurs would just been
Nope.
like
Incredibly
chalk.
lucky. Incredibly lucky. I drink milk.
You know, it could be though. But, hey, listen though, because you again, we have some camaraderie here because we're fatties, right?
Yep.
I grew up as a fat kid too. Drank a lot of milk, was always a little bit overweight, but
Yep.
was also always training heavy and doing a lot of high intensity things and bounding and jumping and running
Right.
and sprinting. I've never had a fracture in my life, so maybe that had a big play into how you
Exactly,
survived
because
that. I mean,
you think
yeah.
about the bone density you need for a 300-pound frame, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Now-
have a huge skeletal system.
Exactly, me too.
At my peak, I was 370 pounds.
I've always said I was big boned, and I think literally that's true.
Yeah. That is.
I remember when
No,
we
but
got
you're
our
right,
bone
you're totally
density
right.
tested, your bone density was way beyond me and Mike's.
Yeah.
Like the standard for like normal is like a 1. I don't even know what the scale is exactly. And like,
Yeah,
like
normal's
0 to
1.
0 to
Yeah.
1 is osteopenia, and below 0 is osteoporosis or something like that. And we had like a 1.4, and you had like a 1.7, which was like
Boom. Yep.
way beyond anyone else that got tested.
Yeah, I've never had a fracture in my life.
We
You
got
know, like
DEXA scanned.
I haven't never fallen off a cliff into a fire before.
Funny story.
But I have dropped.
We can
900
test this.
I've dropped 900 pounds of myself before, and I had no injury, so I'm pretty tough too.
That,
Asshole.
yeah, I was gonna say. So fuck you, man. I actually did break my leg my ankle when I was a kid. Another falling accident. I jumped out of my deer stand when I was in high school. A little bit of an impetuous guy. I shot the deer and I was excited. I was like, screw the last 10 steps, and all of a sudden I was like, ooh, this is too high.
No.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we had a guy that fell out of a deer standing and got totally fucked up. He collapsed a bunch of his lungs, broke a bunch of his ribs, like broke his hip, like broke. Did he break his back too?
Who are we talking about?
Joe.
some guy.
Bye.
Oh yeah.
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 He almost like he was out there like all by himself.
Oh, it's no joke.
I
And,
think
like,
you never. There's a
people
lot
almost
of force.
didn't find him. He was lucky. Some hunters walked by. He couldn't stand up. Every time he tried to stand up, he would pass out from pain. He was just laying in the woods, fucked
like
up.
some things
and
just
someone
don't wanna-
happened to see him and
Yeah.
take him back.
You got to be careful with high force situations, like Joe Rogan says. You just don't want to get punched in the face. Like also, you just don't want to fall. You don't
Right.
want to fall. Like any kind of fall is so bad. You gotta be. The older you get, I get so paranoid about being really careful, especially my kids. Like falls are really tough.
They
A
are.
lot of force that's going on.
And the thing about falling is once you're airborne, you have no control over which way very little control over which way you land.
If you got a
Yeah.
long way to fall, you might.
Yeah,
but-
that's a
Long
good point.
way.
I'm gonna
That's
reposition
a country
myself.
album right there.
Long way to fall.
You're
By
not.
Mike
You're not
Bless.
The
thinking
Zach
either.
Brown band.
Dude, there's no thought process that's going to save you. You're going down and you're just going to land.
And that's,
like
you know,
that.
But I
Actually-
love the moment where you're like, oh shit! Like you have enough time
Yeah.
to know that you just totally.
Yep.
The next part is pain, and the next month of your life is going to be
I think the
turmoil.
furthest I've ever fallen was like 15 feet. And I remember just like thinking, I should have hit the ground already.
Yeah.
You're like, oh shit. Like
I'm still not there.
You're like, when you're
It's
not,
like-
you're like, oh well, I've passed this point now. This is really.
It's like the
gonna hurt.
Wile E.
Yeah.
Coyote cartoons
It's a
where he'd
Wile E.
fall a long
Coyote
way and then
style
he'd keep falling and he'd like look at his watch, you know. But yeah, man, it's the falling it's scary. That's actually one of the my core principles as I was recovering was don't be afraid to fall. Right?
Yeah.
Because as a spinal cord injury guy, I'm still like, I fell last night at the
You did,
weight,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I fall all the time. I fall multiple times a day. It's just part of it now. I've gotten better. I know how to fall. Like I've gotten better at it. But yeah, man, once I go, like if I go backwards, I'm at the mercy of gravity.
Well,
Did
heard,
we even point out that you're walking at all?
Yeah.
Did we say that yet?
No, yeah, we didn't.
Yeah.
But yes, I'm
we'll
doing
get
well.
to that
Go into
after the break.
recovery, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about the recovery after the break.
Cool.
Yeah, but last night, AJ announced, I've got some tickets for beers, and then I hear a bang. I'm like, man, he was trying to get those tickets, man.
What's your
And then I was
go-to,
like, oh wait, he's got canes.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, yeah, something's going on with that guy.
Yeah.
What's your go? What do you say to you?
I
Out
thought you were
loud?
just an alcoholic.
Gravity check.
When people see you fall, what do you say to them?
Gravity check. Works over here. You guys good over there? Something like
So
that.
obviously, it's like why it's a strong message of like failure is a thing that just happens.
That's exactly
It's
right.
going to like the best just fuck up in embarrassing ways all
It's
the time.
not,
you need to yell out gravity check more often in all areas of life. Right?
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris is right on. And that's the thing, like, the look of panic on people's faces. Like when you watch me walk, you obviously know that I have issues, right? And it's the injured ape syndrome, right? Like immediately people like rush in, and the look of terror and panic on people's face. And I just like to let them know that look, I've chosen this. I've accepted this. I know this is part of the life that I'm going to lead now.
Yeah.
It's okay. I like to help myself up because you might not always be here. Right.
Right.
But yeah, it's like everyone's like,
You do seem very positive and accepting about this. Like, was there a period of time where you were like, fuck, like super down on yourself? Like,
has to get
like
dark.
Borderline depressed. Yeah, did it get dark and then you came out of it, or
Well,
how was that process?
Let's take a break, and we'll talk about that.
God,
and then
Mike,
the
you always
recovery.
the teasing.
Cliffhanger.
I love it.
Cliffhanger.
No pun intended.
Welcome back to Technique Water, everybody. This week we're making Alex's upper chest totally jacked. Look at this man meat. We're gonna add 2 inches here. This week I want to show you guys everything you need to know about an exercise you don't see prescribed very often in CrossFit boxes, but I'm not sure why not. The exercise is the incline press. Woo! Now, before you call this just a non-functional bodybuilder exercise, well, I guess it can be. I mean, duh. If you want to do this chicken-winged with a limp, lazy posture throughout your body, you can do that. And it would still be okay for just training your upper chest. But what we want to do is make this an exercise that's going to allow us to put barbells overhead in a more strong and athletic way. Right, before we get going, the first thing you're going to need is a bench. If you have an adjustable bench in your box, that's fantastic. It's a nice, stable structure made just for this. If you don't have that, what I'd recommend you do is get something like this bench right here. This standalone bench press. You can slide into your rack or what have you. Take one side, put it up on the end of a plyometric box. We got to think like 24 inches maybe or 20 inches, that'd be fine. Get it close to 45 degrees you can. That's a good starting point. Put a piece of rubber on top to keep it more stable. Don't go too heavy. Make sure you have proper spotters. Make sure it's structured. I'm not saying it's a safe thing to do. I'm not telling you to do it, but do what you gotta do. The most important point I can make about pressing of any kind, military pressing, incline pressing like we're doing here, bench pressing, you have to have your feet in an anchored, strong position. So Alex, put them wherever they would normally go. Just put them up and drop them. So from here, if you want a little bit out and forward, well, not quite that far, a little bit out, widen the feet, drive them in the ground through the heel, you would create a nice wide structure. This is how I like to press. If it feels a little uncomfortable, you can bring them a little closer and back, so coil them underneath you a little bit. And then every time you press, you gotta keep tension going through your leg into the ground so you stay nice and anchored. For your spine, you don't wanna overarch. That's not necessary, it's not a good idea, but you don't wanna just lay here. Let the force come through your leg. Keep a nice, gentle bow in your spine. So if I came and hit you, you'd be stable. The more stable you are, the more this will transfer. For grip, I like to grab pretty close. You can also grab right where you jerk or military press, or you just grab wherever you're comfortable. Alex, take your grip on the bar, man. So, the most important thing I want you to do is don't just pick this up. So just lazily pick that barbell up and start pressing with your elbows out, Alex. This is the bad thing to do. Sloppy motion, the bar coming up at a different trajectory each time. You see how wild this is? If the barbell comes up in this way, that's bad. Your genitals won't like this barbell on them. Forearms, come here, CTP. Look at the forearm. You want your forearm to be in a very good position. I would say this grip is too wide. Alex, bring your grip in and show people what a vertical forearm position looks like. And then, just like you would jerk, pull your elbows forward just a little bit, keep a full grip on the bar, maybe your wrist can come back a little bit. So this is now a nice tense structured position. The shoulder blades are gonna come down and back so that this now becomes a super duper rigid structure. You can touch a little bit here. This allows you, if you're not so good at getting the bar up here and getting a nice, good, this is not a good jerk position, but if you really struggle with structure and building a good platform from which to jerk strongly, this is a good way of practicing that. So if Alex was gonna work the incline press, this whole time I would have him basically pretend like he's about to jerk. So this is all very structurally sound. His abs are engaged, his spine is tense and coiled. The force never leaves his legs. These are strong and flexed, and his feet are anchored. They're not picking up and flopping all around. Watch out, buddy. So when Alex presses this bar, he's gonna come straight up and then slightly back so the bar is basically over his nose. The reason why this is such a good exercise for building the jerk and all that is because unlike the bench press, the bar is going overhead. It's a little bit more specific to what we're training for. So therefore, it's a better choice for assistance work maybe for a lot of people, especially if you've done a lot of bench pressing already. The bench press will not help you go overhead, but going overhead better will allow you to bench press just fine. Keep that in mind. So let's show you what it looks like from start to finish. Strong position, nice and coiled. Grab the bar for me, Alex. So first things first, shoulder blades back and tight. He's gonna drag the barbell out of the rack. Come straight down, coil position, good elbow position. He's gonna squeeze the bar. He's gonna keep his hands around firmly. And he's gonna press really strong out to finish, right to the tip top. Stay nice and tight, drive, straight up and back. Right there, yeah, boom, right there. Look how strong that is. Now see, if Alex practices this, he'll get better and more comfortable when he's in military press position and when he catches a clean and stands up. as in now Eustace keeping a nice structured, very tense position from winch to jerk.
Did you just say winced?
From winch to jerk. Oh no, it's whatever. One variation of the exercise, you can get rid of the dumbbell or the barbell and switch to dumbbells. You can also do it with kettlebells. I want to show you the dumbbell variety and make a point about shoulder health. The great thing about incline pressing is that if your shoulders are bothering you from bench pressing, like if you have AC joint problems or what have you, shoulder tendonitis, if you raise yourself up in incline position, the load's a little bit reduced. My son is screaming. The load's a little bit less, and it's not so tough on your shoulders to bring it down here in this incline position versus a deep bench press position. So if your shoulders are banged up, try this variety. So Alex is gonna pick up the dumbbells. Every point about performance remains the same. Feet are anchored, legs are tense. He's gonna just casually and quickly kick the weight back up. The heavier these get, obviously the squirrelier it is. So for it to be a little bit easier on his arms, I'll make sure he has a hammer style grip, palms facing in. So what he's gonna do is just smoothly drive with the elbows straight up, squeeze his arms, squeeze the triceps, and hold that weight at extension for like maybe a second. Go ahead, man. Drive straight up, drive straight down. Again, do not let your shoulders get out of position or else they won't really transfer. We're gonna teach ourselves to be in better position by bringing it down slowly, keeping a nice rock solid position, holding, keeping tension across our chest and our shoulder blades, and we're just gonna drive straight up and hold. Now, for the barbell, you wanna load this progressively like you do any other major barbell exercise. Heavy sets of 5 are golden. Put 5 pounds on the bar, every week for 2 months. You'll be much, much stronger, and you'll probably jerk a little bit better, is my guess. For this exercise, it doesn't make sense to load it to like a heavy set of 5. Do this for reps. Do it at least once a week. One of the best ways to keep your shoulders fresh and strong, and to keep your work capacity up and keep the wear and tear down, is do a lot of reps on an exercise like this, or ring push-ups, or any high rep pressing exercise. If you do 2 to 3 sets of 15 to 25 reps, fill the chest with blood, do a lot of reps, get a good burn. That'll help bring your capacity up. It'll help you survive tough jerking sessions by allowing you to do more work without getting so fatigued. So you want to show 1 set of 10 here, we'll have that. So again, after a heavy jerking session, if Alex is a little beat up, heavy jerking session, yeah, man, you jerk it hard, bro. You can just do 2 to 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps or whatever you want to do, and you'll feel like a new person. Do a couple, man. Up and down. Okay, it's a small exercise. It's not going to make or break your weightlifting, but if you struggle keeping position, this is a way for you to practice that position without having to use a heavy barbell, because if you do that a bunch with bad position, you're going to get hurt. Or as Doug would say, you're going to miss the bar out front, you'll break your spine, everybody's going to hate you, and you'll die. Isn't that right, Alex? You getting swole yet? Oh, yeah. How's that man meat coming along? Oh, you're well done. That is the incline press. Do it. You will be much more comfortable and strong going overhead. That's it for this week's episode of Technique WOD. For more great tips and tricks how you can perform better, and Alex will show you, go to barbellshrug.com, click on Technique WOD on the banner up top, and have fun, man. Until next time, see you later, dude. Cheers.
Oh, and we're back. Here with Steve Heidemann.
Good to be here.
We are going to dig into the darkness.
The darkness.
Yeah.
Travel down the river of doubt into the heart of darkness.
Yeah.
So, got to the hospital. I had my first surgery was the same day. I had a second that stabilized my spine. Right. They cut me here, like all the way down to my ribs. Took my guts out.
Oh God.
I saw Kevin's podcast you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
He's got the
like
same.
a fish.
He's got the same level of injury that I do. So when he got hurt, and then I felt a really kinship with him. So I've been kind of following the story. And same thing, man. They took my guts out. They took the whole thing out. They put my spine back together.
I even forgot about that part, but as you're re-describing, I'm like,
it's like at that point you are completely fundamentally broken. Your guts are outside your body. Your spine is crushed. That's your core of your being.
Yeah, when I've seen frogs get squished, they look like me.
Yeah,
right?
like when you're playing a bath.
Did you
catch it?
Exactly.
Did you get to see pictures or anything?
I've got. I don't
surgery?
have surgery pictures. I should ask if they have them.
I don't
know, man. Oh boy.
Dude, I'd like to see my guts, but I do have some fairly, gross pictures from like, because you got to understand, like my hands, like here, you see my finger, it doesn't open all the way, like because the rope burns. You can kind of see right there. I call this my witch finger with the kids in the neighborhood. I'm like,
And not
I'm
only were your
thirsty
legs
with this
burned, but
thing.
you had like the worst burns possible, just like rope burns.
Yeah, my
to the
fingers looked
hands.
like bacon.
So you just, as
Like-
you were falling, you were looking at that orange rope and just probably just.
Actually, one of the things I thought when I first woke up was, damn it, why didn't I wear gloves? You know. And the doctor was
Well,
like,
we already discussed how you made all the
like,
possible
that's the
mistakes.
yeah, right. No, but the doctor was like, if you'd worn gloves, you probably would have sawed your fingers off because you were traveling so fast. By the time you would have, the gloves would have slowed down that, you know, it wouldn't have had the pain, so you'd be sliding even faster, and you'd just it'd be like a saw, right?
Rip them off.
Yeah, right. I hadn't considered that. I'm glad, you know, dude.
Jesus,
it's hard
you
enough.
got lucky, dude.
I did. Listen. I say I got something. The universe was very kind to me that
Yeah, I'm
day.
inclined to think you're here for a reason now. Huh?
Right. Well, I don't know about destiny and all that, but you know, I mean, you know, listen, I'm a guy that takes a choice at a time.
So
Right.
they sewed up the back. They put the guts back in. I guess they got the top where it's supposed to be and the bottom's where it's supposed to be. And
Yep. Put
you
that together, and then
how's a poop situation?
you know, it's tougher. It's a lot tougher. Because you know, one of the things like the spinal cord injury, most people think you can't walk. Okay. They don't think about all the secondary conditions, right? Like, you know, you got bladder, bowel nerves, or sexual function issues that
it's
don't happen.
everything, man.
Dude, I didn't have sexual function for a year and a half. Like, it was the worst thing. It was hard. It was really hard.
Yeah.
Well, it's who you are as a person. I mean,
But it's part of it.
It's one of the fundamental things you are.
Well, I mean, until you don't have it, I mean,
you don't
I'm
know.
sure there's. You go through life never not having it, so I'm sure not having it kind of changes maybe just who you are to a degree.
Well,
right?
and the definition of what sex is too, right? Like, you know, I mean, we still had sex. It just wasn't my penis and her vagina.
Right.
It was, you know, we have fun.
Get creative.
Yeah,
Yeah.
get creative, right?
Yeah.
Now, thank God I got it back. Like, I mean, thank
Good.
God, man.
High
Yeah.
five.
Yeah,
motherfucker.
right. I mean, like I say, lucky all the way around. No, I worked every day for 5 hours a day. I mean, it was crazy. So, anyway, day one, they put my back together. Day two was a spinal stabilization surgery where they had to cut me open and they had to take, you know, titanium. They packed my bone, my T12, because it was burst open into a titanium tube, like a little rebuild bone thing, and then fuse me from T10 to L2, right? So I've got titanium from T10 to L2 and rods in my back, where my back is one, from that point is one. So, you know, flexibility, like, you know, I worked a lot on it, but you know, bending is weird. I like bend my top back and my bottom back. So
you learn different strategies for being able to bend a little bit. Like, can you get around it a little bit and like kind of?
Yeah, like, you know what I equate it to is like, it's like going through puberty again. You know, like your body's awkward and you're all gangly and shit. And you're like,
You're learning how to
"God
use
damn it, man."
everything
You're
all
learning,
over
yeah,
again.
learn how to use everything all over again, basically.
Wow.
Right? Developing a whole neural, and that's where CrossFit has been really helpful, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But those constantly varied functional movements to learn how to work my muscles together. Because
it's like I'm fascinated by how your spine would kind of congeal back together in a new form and restabilize.
listen, it took over a year and a half for me to feel like one whole person. It actually wasn't till I started doing CrossFit, and you know, Coach AJ Richard at CrossFit Mesa took me in and helped me adapt movements. We start with reverse hypers, and I did reverse hypers and black band squats.
It's not nearly the same, man. But like, anytime people have an injury to the back, or they lose a lot of weight, or like, you know, a guy who works at Faction, he had a lot of weight loss, had a surgery, and like some tissue removed. So like, anytime there's destabilization of your abs and your spine, I think people need to really bake in an extended period of time where you're thinking, look, everything's gonna be weird and unstable.
Yep.
There's gonna be a relearning phase where your only focus is gonna be just like standing up straight.
Yep.
Learning how to get air in your belly again, like learning how to feel the spaces the right way and
Where
be
to put,
stable.
where to hold
get
your
tension.
shoulders. Yep.
The first time I lost weight, I experienced it because I went from 370 to 230 like in a year.
Holy cow.
I
Holy
went from
cow.
squatting 975 pounds to squatting like 300 pounds because I was like, I didn't realize it until I'd done the dumb thing. Like sometimes mistakes only are visible when on the other side of the fall, you know. And I realized I had to take this on a different way, go much slower. Because you lose stability, you lose everything.
Yeah, right.
You lose your core, you've got nothing. A man's strength and a person's strength is spine and
Yep, and
belly.
it's all here. Like, and that's what I've learned now is that my core is so thick and like packed in there because I do so much, you know, because I get to use my core because I didn't have glutes for so long that I had to use my lower back and core to hold me up. right?
Yeah.
So I'm like engaging my core muscle like
And you mentioned how
constantly.
fatiguing that is because
You're having to engage
all the
here,
time. Otherwise,
all the time.
otherwise I like fall
Right.
over backwards, right?
Wow.
So that took
whole new motor patterns.
Exactly. I mean, neuroplasticity. It's a beautiful thing about the
Right.
human body, guys. Is
Yeah.
you fuck things up in one channel, it'll dial until it finds something. If there's something there and you work at it, that's what the science has shown us. Like exercise-based recovery is everything, right?
Yeah.
Repetition, repetition, repetition. Like what happened was, you asked me if I was before the break if I went into darkness, and the answer is not really. I mean, but I'm a glass half full person, like maybe to a fault, right? People are like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But I tend to always, I'm a vehement defender of the silver lining. I always have been. And I had one day where the first day in because inpatient rehab, dude, they dope you up so much. I was on Dilaudid, which by the way is a great fucking drug. Oh my god, it made me a little sick, but dude, it took all the pain away.
people who say
Really?
just say no to drugs, like you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You need to shut up.
Exactly.
Throw your ass off a mountain and see how you like drugs then.
So really, the first time I was clear, right, was in outpatient rehab at Barrows Neurological. And that first day, my wife and I call it day one shit because we had many day ones, right? We start over. Day one was terrible. Like it was dark, right? I couldn't look. Your first goal is to be able to sit up, and you got this freaking turtle shell on, that keeps your spine together, and then you don't have any hips or glutes or anything below your waist, so you're like.
Falling over.
How are you gonna keep your? That's where core comes in, right? So you're all cut up, so you're like, it's incredibly painful. Then the first thing you're supposed to learn from that is how to get from your bed or whatever you're on to your wheelchair with this board. They call it a transfer board,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
That you like slide across. And I couldn't even do that then, right? And the mountain was so big. It's like being at the bottom of Everest and being exhausted and being like, oh fuck. I mean, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
And I was down. And then the recreation director, Gus Lazier, who now runs this beautiful, we're really lucky in Phoenix. There's this thing called the SPOFIT, the Disability Empowerment Center, that is one of only 2 facilities in the country that has fully adaptive sports equipment. It's a beautiful facility.
Oh, amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
But he came in and he's like, your life isn't over. Here's the things you can do. And dude, I just broke down and cried. Like it was.
Well, do you find that there's that oh shit moment when like everybody goes through challenges and stuff. Like sometimes things get hard. Like I had a tough time at work.
Yeah.
Like work was really tough. Yeah, I know it's hard. And like when you break up with a girlfriend, it's hard. And, like sometimes these big milestones and the edges in your life are hard. But sometimes you get hit with something like I don't know how tomorrow was going to happen right now. Like,
yeah.
Until you have that kind of moment, through like loss of a loved one, really intense injury, big life turmoil, big life shakeup, you get hit with immediate like, oh shit, nothing's going to be the same again.
Yeah.
And then, but I think what's amazing about that is like, I think what I've learned in big shakeups in my life is that big moment of fear, it's paralyzing if you view it the wrong way. Like it's supposed to be
literally for me.
I think it's more. I learned to view it more like. Yeah, sorry.
No, it's good. No, but it's a great metaphor because you're right.
Yeah.
But I think it's amazing
happens
when you realize you turn it on its head and you realize the fear and shock of this is not like a punishment or like a it's over, kid, or here's a barrier, or here's the reasons why it's not going to happen. It's more of like stop and really realize now just what you are and what's important to you. All this other bullshit probably is not. Now something really important has happened. This is what is now important to you. It's like a shakeup. It's
totally. Adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just it. And one of the things, speaking to your point, one of the big lessons I learned from this injury is that pain is relative, suffering is relative.
Oh, because we have a huge potential for suffering.
Yeah, well, and
a lot of people have done it with amazing things.
If you'd have told me, 5 years ago that I'd be able to live well past a spinal cord injury, I probably would have said, I don't know how. I mean,
your ego would be like,
probably
outrageous.
First of all, it's never going to happen to a guy like me, But truth be known, it was always going to happen to a guy like me. I mean, I'm an accident. I push it. I push it all the time, and sometimes I get burned, right? Sometimes I go over the edge. So that's a really important point. Is that people say to me a lot. Even my wife will say, like, I can't even. It's like anything that's happening to me in my life. It seems like it's not worth it when I think about what you have to go through. And I'm like, you guys, that has nothing to do with it. Pain is relative, suffering is relative. Just because you haven't been stretched as like my new 10, like in the hospital they rate 10 on a scale of 1 to 10. My old 10 is like my current 2.
Right.
Dude, I would kill for my you're 35 years old, you start to get a little creaks in the back, and I was like, man, everything
though,
I would kill for those pains right now.
Sure.
There's the edges of what you can tolerate, and there's the edges of what you can do,
Right.
creatively and like training wise.
Well, and you can grow into it, like
Nothing matters.
hypertrophy. There's muscle hypertrophy. There's also spirit hypertrophy. There's also attitude hypertrophy.
Yeah.
You just got to work it. It's a muscle. Iron sharpens iron. Simple as that, right?
Or I tell people like my brother always had like a fish tank in his bedroom when we were growing up. And he was a skateboard and shit. He had like a caiman crocodile. And I used to go, but what are you gonna do when this crocodile gets to be like fucking crocodile size, bro? Like it's gonna be like, what do you plan on? What's your plan for that? He's like, don't worry, if we keep it in that cage, it'll never grow. Like you keep it in a small thing, and it'll always be a small creature.
Is that true?
Yeah,
That's cool.
Oh, fish and some
Right.
creatures.
No, you're right.
But humans are a lot
They
like
grow
that.
to the
like,
size. Yeah.
You will only grow into the size of the aquarium you're in. So like if you think you're strong, and you're surrounded by people who squat 300 pounds.
Truth.
Okay, well, you're strong here.
Yeah.
It's a very small aquarium, bro.
Yep.
You go to West Side Barbell, you're going to grow rapidly, or you'll die like the little minnows in the Walmart fish tanks, those desperate creatures who have no place and no belong.
Yeah.
You either fill up the space or you don't. But
Yep.
but a guy like you, so you filled up a pain space.
Yeah. Right.
I would be the guy who would now ask the dangling question that I know the answer to, but like you had the pain, this profoundly terrible experience, and that stretched all your edges for what you believed you could tolerate and survive. So now how do you view common distresses in life and the big picture questions?
For the most part, I mean, we all have days, right? And we all have days, but pretty much all my fears have been extinguished except one, and that is that the gift I've been given, which is the ability to move my leg below my level of injury. It's long, slow, hard pain, deep mud going. But if I squander this gift that I've been given, I've got so many buddies that are in a chair right now that would kill for the opportunity that I've been given. Mm-hmm. And I every day, that's what I'm afraid of.
Mm-hmm. That's a good fear. That's like the fear a parent feels. Like I wake up every day, I drop my kid off at school. It's just it's like a beautiful thing and a scary thing. It's like it's out, my control is gone, and like I desperately don't want to do something stupid to let this kid down. It happens all over the place. It's like the fear, like on the show, like we're always scared shitless that the next thing we do is like, was that as good as we could make it? Like fuck, like we're always being really harsh on ourselves, but the fear of like letting people down keeps you pushing to try to do more. It keeps you going in the right direction.
Well, I think
it's a good thing to have. It's not
agree.
like it's not a bad fear. It's like it keeps prodding you forward.
Comfort and complacency are the enemies of evolution. I mean, self-growth, self-discovery, self-awareness, right?
And innovation, for that matter.
Yeah, or anything, right? I mean,
progress in any
yeah,
form.
bureaucracy is the death of everything else. Right. You're 100% right.
You brought up suffering a minute ago, and I heard a good quote a while back, and I'm not exactly sure who originally coined this, but they said that suffering is pain times resistance. And you don't seem like you're resisting this anymore. We already said earlier that you've become very accepting of your situation. Granted, it's a painful thing to have happen to you, and there's probably a lot of pain still associated with it. But I think in a lot of ways, because you're more accepting compared to other people in your same situation, you don't have to suffer as much, even though you're experiencing a lot of pain in this situation.
You're I like that, and you're right. And one of the quotes that kept me going, like, constantly when things were really hard was the Lance Armstrong quote that pain is temporary. It may last for a day, a week, a month, or even a year.
I thought pain is temporary, especially if you have drugs.
Yeah, that's right. But eventually it will go away and be replaced by something else. But if I quit, it'll last forever.
Yeah.
In other words, if you don't push through it, you'll always hurt.
Yeah, actually, I was talking to a friend of mine. He's talking about doing a 10-day Vipassana retreat. And what Vipassana is it's a type of meditation.
I figured, yeah.
You spend, he said, like, it's 10 days of, like, silence and, a few lessons and a lot of, like, just you being in meditation.
For a lot of people, it's harder than a 10-day, like, Navy SEAL camp.
Well, I know a lot of guys who've been through a lot of hard stuff. They go and do a 10-day Vipassana, and they say that's the hardest thing.
Right. Like I used to do a lot of sensory deprivation floating, and the same thing. Like the first hour isn't. You're just like yeah. So I totally.
Yeah, I've done a couple tanks myself.
Yeah, right on.
But so that, he talked about like he's sitting there and they did like an hour straight, and he said that the focus is on the body, and every injury he's ever had, he could start feeling it in his body. The tweaked back, the bad ankle, like everything is just like all these just alarms were going off, like move, because you're not supposed to move.
Right.
Like you're in half lotus and you're just sitting there, and he's just like move, and he sits there. All of a sudden, he saw the vision of the Buddhist monk that had caught himself on fire.
Yeah,
And-
the self-immolation guy.
Yeah.
During
That
the
is the
Tibet,
most-
during the Tibet protest.
Yeah, and
yeah.
he said that all of a sudden that just came into his mind, and then when that happened, he goes, if he can sit there,
On fire.
I can sit here in this room in Southern California.
If everybody listening,
Yeah, right.
And
It's not like you're on a mountaintop in Tibet, there, pal.
right. And so he's like, I can sit here for an hour, and he said that once he got past that resistance of the pain and accepted the pain, it then actually turned into bliss.
Yes.
And so this happens with people emotionally too. A lot of times, I see people who, something's happening in their life, and they're having a hard time dealing with change or something. And it's not the change that's hurting them.
resistance to
It's the
change.
resistance to the change, and they're losing their minds.
Yep.
And they're having a hard time.
Yep.
I was like, if they could just let go of that resistance, then
I think what it really is like
Float
you
like
are
a leaf on the river of
you are
life.
clinging to a rock in
be
the
like
middle
water.
of
Be like water, my friend.
yeah, you're clinging to a rock in the middle of a stream.
Yep.
Letting go is terrifying, but you're never going to stop the flow of water. That is your life.
That's right.
Your resistance to it is causing all the pain. You got to let go and trust that. Because I think CTP and I brainstormed like, you still got to work to get out of the way of other rocks. It's
Right.
not like you just let go and destiny will take me. No, you still work hard
right.
to
There's
guide yourself.
you have to navigate the river.
But you got to
right?
feel for where you're
Yeah.
going. Like there's a path that's you're getting drawn in some direction.
Yep.
I'm sure now you're being drawn in a very specifically different direction than where you were before you fell.
Absolutely.
What are you up to now that's so different than what you were doing before?
My life kind of revolves around getting better all the time, right? Physically, you guys think about this, like the gains you make in the gym, multiply that by 7, and that's how long it takes to make the same or comparable gain when you've got your nervous system is 30, 40%, 50%.
Yeah,
right?
they're not the same rates of adaptation, right?
Rates of adaptation. You also talking about fiber engagement takes a lot longer because you're talking about less nerve nodes to pull those fibers, right? So you're like 10, 20, 40. No, you're like 10, 15, 20.
The signals are all
Right.
weak.
Yeah.
Yep.
So actually, I got a question for you. So you said earlier that since you're using your upper body for everything, like you get much more tired because everything's so much more difficult just to move around. But at the same time, you're not using your lower body. So even though you're getting more tired because you're using your upper body a lot, you're not using your lower body. So do you have to eat more food or do you have to eat less food? I feel
less.
like
Oh, that's an
less,
interesting question.
Right?
Less food, but I try my nutrition. Last couple of months, guys, I haven't been to the box and I haven't been eating really well. My businesses have been pulling me all over the place. Rush Club has, started to kind of really blow up, and so there's a lot more work to do. That's just one.
You're doing the right thing. You got to get the work done.
So, but still, and physical therapy takes precedence. Like I go into there, over the box, but for the first 2.5 years I had this injury, I was obsessive about nutrition. So the calories I got were perfect, right? I was eating clean, great food, high nutritious food. So every calorie I took in I was looking. I read everything I could about neurological adaptation. What vitamins do I need?
You were saying you became a bit of an expert.
Yeah, well, an armchair. Yeah, an expert, quote unquote.
Like
right?
say you read one book and now you're
Yeah,
probably
right,
9% of
exactly.
people on that fucking topic.
I mean, yeah,
if
it's
you
like-
read 3 articles on nerve regeneration or
Yeah,
something, you're a goddamn expert
three
compared to
on
most
PubMed.
people.
No, but I try to, weekly. I definitely do a lot of neurological research, and I read all of the spinal cord stuff I can. And,
Yeah.
How long ago was the injury?
December 10th, 2011. So
almost
just about
not
3
a long
years.
time
It's
ago.
almost 3
Yeah.
years.
Yep.
How long did you spend in the hospital?
I spent 6 weeks in the hospital.
6 weeks. They released you. You started doing outpatient physical therapy.
Immediately. So here's the thing: when I got released, I didn't even go home. I went to interview physical therapists first because I knew that was going to be the most important thing for my recovery.
Yeah.
Right? And found a guy the first day. Started the next day. I didn't give myself any time to transition.
Yeah.
And what I did was I bought one of those. So was doing physical therapy, learning how to crawl. Right. That was the hardest part.
Like a baby.
Literally. And I got a picture of myself and my brand new niece. She was just learning how to crawl at the same time. And you got a picture of me learning to crawl and her learning to crawl at the exact same time. She did beat me to walking, but I got my other niece. Beat my other niece. But anyway, so I started doing that. And then we bought one of those recumbent bikes with the 2 wheels in the front and the 1 wheel in the back, and they got the pedals out there.
Yeah.
And what we did was my mom came down to help out because my wife had to go back to work. So it was my mom, my wife, and I living in the house. And we would duct tape my feet to the pedals so that I could get that movement, right? And they would push me around the block. And at first they were pushing me around the block, right? And then I could go down one side of the block, and then they'd have to push me the rest of the way, and then half the block. And
Is this your fake it till you make it style of rehab?
It was, yeah.
Let me pretend I can pedal, then pretty soon your body starts pedaling.
There's a lot of science.
So did you lose feeling down there?
Oh yeah.
All right, so you lost that originally, and then how did that whole process go?
Slowly came back. So when I was in the hospital, right when I left the hospital, I could move my hip flexor, right, and I could lift my right foot off the ground about an inch, right, using that kind of like that.
Yep.
What I said was when I woke up from surgery, I had my wife right on the whiteboard 100%, right? And that was where I was heading, and I knew that if I got a toehold, and if I was given an opportunity to get any nervous connection at all, I needed one nerve node below my level of injury.
There's a chance.
So exactly, that's exactly right. I knew I could do it, and so once I got that, I obsessively flexed it 40,000 times a day.
One of the best things you did, it seems, was even though you couldn't really move on your own, it seems like as soon as motion could happen, it was the best thing you could do.
There's actually,
even if you're being moved by something, motion was important.
Yeah, there's science that shows functional electrical stimulation is what will take it over, but there's science that shows that muscle memory will actually help nerve signals work, right?
Like I remember I had one bad injury.
The movement first.
The movement itself.
The nervous system
and
second.
it also helps keep the muscles from atrophying too much, and keeps your bone density. Because that's the thing about. So here's the thing about spinal cord injuries too: is you got a ticking clock. If you're not up in 2 years, you're screwed because you have so much osteoporosis. Because your bones, you're not using your legs. Your bones, the body is very efficient.
It's like you went to space.
It breaks down your shit immediately. That's actually what I use is the Ultra G treadmill, which they invented for astronauts. That came. Are you familiar?
Yeah. We used to do a lot of research on trying to think of ways to create more efficient exercise stimuli for with Dr. Fry. We tried to dream up all these creative ways of using elastic bands to get them up in a space shuttle because you could tie them anything and create an elastic load and you didn't need gravity. So that's a whole fascinating area of research,
it's
like
really
how you
cool.
replicate a stimulus to the body to keep it a body.
And that's what Coach AJ really helped me with too. Is like thinking about banding and thinking about reverse body weight stuff. So I was always thinking about lifting weights, but I wasn't thinking about weights lifting me. So I made this little. I got one of those roofer harnesses from Home Depot.
Yeah.
And Coach AJ helped me rig up this thing on my squat rack at home. I got a 5-gallon bucket full of water, and I frickin' put on the suit and I did some steel cables and some rescue pulleys.
Yeah.
And I took that and I strapped it to me, and so it would pull me up, right? And I could stand and do squats. And my goal was to reverse body weight, right? So then the goal was empty the bucket. So then it was 3/4 of the bucket, then it was half the bucket, then it was a quarter of the bucket.
Think what a beautiful definition of progress that is. Like, it's not just about piling on load. It's like for you, it's like removing water from a bucket was like a sign of your strength.
That's exactly think about guys and gals that come new into boxes
That's
and can't do a pull-up.
fascinating.
You're using bands, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't do it on your own. Slowly you go from the black band to the blue band to the green band and the red band, and you're done, right? Then your body weight. It's the same exact principle. And that's really and that's the beautiful thing about the CrossFit ideology is that it's so open source that it allows you to think in all these different ways.
I'm amazed you obviously were completely unbound in the creative solutions you were seeking.
Yeah.
To to find a way, no matter fucking what, just to do the movements. It seems to have a huge benefit having gone through the steps of doing the movement. Like even if you couldn't squat on your own, just having a rig help you squat was hugely beneficial.
That's exactly because I couldn't lift my body weight, but I could lift 60% of my body weight, right? And so I needed to strengthen the muscle. So once you got the nerves, then you got to build the muscle.
Yeah.
Right. And that takes forever because, like I said, you're dealing with.
How many people? I don't want to. This is a powerful thought. Came how many people could do this, but no one was there to help them, How many people were this close to being able to stand who never got the chance, and they were always defeated?
So you're 100% right. Actually, so one of the things that happens with spinal cord injured men, we don't know why, is that 60% of us get catastrophically low testosterone. Like when I got tested,
I'm on
testosterone replacement therapy, which brings me up to the levels I would be a little higher because not much, like a couple 100 milligrams per deciliter or whatever it is. But I was at average woman of our age is 350. I was at 150 So not only do you have this neurological injury, right, but your muscles atrophy so much to the point that if you do get neurological return, you don't have the hormone to help you build and recover.
Right.
So you're breaking yourself down and you're never building yourself back up. So you're 100% right. I think that and you guys have no idea how many doctors I had to go to find a doctor that would even listen to me about this, that would even test me.
Yeah, I've had a lot of very serious frustrations in the medical field where hormones are treated like a goddamn mystery danger to
exactly.
society. Well, meanwhile, I have a really good understanding what hormones do, and we know how some people could really benefit from having a reasonable, monitored restoration of their endogenous hormone levels.
I mean, I've been part of a couple of studies about testosterone and spinal cord injuries now.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on several news programs talking because it's really important that people know this because you take the testosterone and you take some of this functional recovery ideas, right? These negative weight things. And I think we would see a lot higher, like 1%. Maybe if we could take it to 2%, or 5%.
This is just not
think about that.
This is your injuries. Mm-hmm. This is athletics. This is an MMA where like Joe talks a lot about these athletes are being train wrecked and with huge amounts of head damage. And like one of the things that's happening is like this hormonally hugely compromised. It's affecting the mood.
Yep.
NFL players having profound emotional distress from repeated concussive injuries and hormone levels off the fucking charts and the ruin for life. Like this, what you're digging into affects everybody who is aggressively using their body.
Totally.
Like the wear and tear. Like we in this room, like I've struggled myself with hormone issues. Just because over the last 5 years, I was pushing, the last 20 years, pushing athletically.
Well, not only that, but
training, asking so much of my body, being heavy, not understanding how to restore.
Testosterone is lower there. Yeah.
Beating the shit out of my body with 1,000-pound weights. And also getting into a career where most of the day while I'm sitting in a fucking chair 8 hours a day. I don't get sun. Sooner or later, your body just says, fuck you, man.
Exactly.
It shuts the story down. Like, it shuts everything down. Like, okay, well, now, if we take your boner away, will you listen? Like, that didn't happen to me, but it's going to happen to a lot of people.
Right. No, you're
right.
It's
like a big alarm. Your body's saying, look, we can't do this shit anymore because that's excess expenditure. This is too expensive. We're going to back down all this and just try to keep you functional.
It's the canary in the coal mine, man.
Yeah.
Once your boner's gone,
you're
in trouble.
You tend to pay attention. That got my attention. Like it's that old joke about the mule and the 2x4. First, you got to hit him upside the head of the 2x4 to get his attention, right?
Yeah.
So I
hadn't heard that one.
There's a joke. There's a mule.
Nodding my head.
There's a mule.
Mules are stubborn.
Yeah.
Mules are very stubborn.
Do you know the
They're
joke?
stubborn. There's a mule in the middle of the road. The guy goes, "I can't move this mule." The guy goes, "Give me $5. I'll move him for you." So
my parents are a bit of mule folk.
yeah, that's right.
So I know a little bit more about mules than the common man. By the way, my parents forced me to go to an event one time called fucking Mule Day.
Mule Day?
Mule Day?
I have a buddy whose nickname is the Mule.
It's a whole day of mule events, and I'm going to tell you how fun that was as a 13-year-old kid going to a fucking Mule Day. But yeah, so you're stubborn. I'm also very stubborn.
Right. Tell the mule story.
So anyways,
the
guy goes, "Give me $5, I'll get him out of the road." He gives him $5. He goes into the hardware store, buys a 2x4, comes out, says, "What are you doing with the 2x4? I thought you were going to move my mule." He goes, "Yeah, but I first got to hit him upside the head to get his attention." And that's
hard-headedness.
The boner.
The boner.
It was probably it was tangential. That was kind of Pluto
it's
orbit.
More of what
right?
the joke represents, Mike.
That's right.
So So you started doing the PT, and you mentioned something about a rec center, and then we got derailed.
There's just there's a really good, like one of two in the country. There's one in Alabama, and there's one here in Phoenix. And I think they're building one in San Diego now too.
Oh, really?
For disability gym, especially for folks that have spinal cord injuries, neurological injuries, traumatic brain injuries, etc. And it was really nice to have that to transition, because between CrossFit and, look, physical therapy was great, but I was doing that 2 hours a day, right? 3 days a week. I needed more. So then I would do biking. I would do, once I could bike, I started doing 5 miles a day every day. And then I would always do my treadmill work, right? But I needed more too, so then I started adding weightlifting, and that was the thing about weightlifting, is I was doing all these isolation exercises.
Yeah.
So muscle was coming back, but I wasn't getting any better at functional movements.
Your movement wasn't getting better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's
you had a huge need for movement.
That's exactly right, and that's what brought me to CrossFit. That's what brought me.
Patterns are what important.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
It's kinetic chain engagement and posterior chain engagement, and really learning about moving my muscles as one.
It's really quite fascinating, because if you look at, I think I've read, this is a bit geeky, but I remember reading Nature articles on early evolutionary theories about where movement comes from and why creatures need a nervous system. I think one of the articles, the hypothesis presented in this article was you need it to move. Like if a little sponge in the sea embeds in a rock and gets stable, it has very little need for nervous system.
Yep.
As things start moving and going through 3D space, to do that in a choreographed way, you need a huge amount of processing power. Like your brain's like, I don't think it really starts with like, it doesn't start with emotion and memory and all this stuff. Those are all side effects of having hardware developed that allows you to move around. And because you have that, now you can do all kinds of other stuff.
Yep.
So I don't think people realize just to move. Like that's why a snatch is so, you don't see how much more data is there compared to a leg press. They both have their space.
But you're not using, with a snatch, you're using every muscle in your body. And
I don't know why snatch is so hard. It's because
move.
you are missing all that data that you don't see. You're not paying attention to all that. It's like dark matter in the universe.
Yeah,
90% of what you're missing, you can't tell is missing.
And we don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
So, like, if you don't know what you don't know. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 100% with that.
Yeah.
Do you know a lot of other guys that are in your same situation?
You know, I don't know anybody else. I've heard of another guy that has my level of injury that can walk with a walker and full. They're called KFOs, full leg braces.
Yeah.
He's actually started out with full leg braces, right? That locked, right? And that's how I'd walk, like straight legged, like
Forrest Gump and shit.
Yep,
Right.
that's exactly like Forrest Gump. Then one day, one of my therapists was like, "Dude, I think you're locking your knees out." So we unlocked him, and sure enough, I was locking my knees. So then I took the top as soon as I could. I took the top off. Right.
You're like, fuck yeah. I kick
and
ass.
I never, you know, I still haven't gotten my ankle dorsiflexion back. I probably won't, but you know, these keep my ankle from rolling, basically, right? So that I can walk, and this little thing here acts as my calf. So
Yeah.
like
you got like a carbon fiber rod going back.
Yep,
back
it's actually
behind you.
plastic.
Plastic.
This isn't
Tell
carbon.
chicks it's carbon fiber.
Yeah, well, I got the carbon fiber overlay, as you can see. That was an add-on, but I figured, what the hell?
You went to Target. You went to Kmart and got that shit. People put on their bumpers.
I went all in on that. So yeah, that was the progression.
So what got you into CrossFit Mesa?
CrossFit was okay. I need more functional movement, and I started to look for stuff. And one of my other buddies who was injured just said, "Have you ever heard of CrossFit?" I said no, and so I looked it up, and actually looked up CrossFit spinal cord injuries. And there's a guy in California who had a cervical injury, and 3 years later doing CrossFit, he was wadding excellent, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I totally see how and why that is. You couldn't, if you didn't know he was spinal cord injured and saw the video yourself, you'd be like,
do you see potential here for exploring modified? Like, is there a place where CrossFit and PT can come together to experiment? Because this is Kevin's story and your story are very unique, and a lot of unique data come out of this. Like, no one's gotten their back broken and gone on CrossFit except you two guys. So I wonder if something profoundly different shows data that might help us.
Yeah,
is there a lot of improvement that these current protocols can be like? Is
I will
there
tell
a lot of fat to be trimmed, or
I will tell you. Yeah, I mean, there's just not enough data, and I brought quite a bit to the. I had already gained quite a bit when I got to CrossFit, but I didn't have. What CrossFit gave me was using my body, not just moving my muscles, but using my body, right?
Yeah.
In a way that was functional, and yes, I think that there's a tremendous amount of help and a tremendous amount of benefit and data that we can get from this type of stuff. I mean, you look at, like, in our box, we've got folks that, came in 60, 70 years old that came in with, arthritic backs, and they're fine now.
It doesn't always have to be catastrophic. It can be average wear and tear.
Yeah, exactly. Again, it's relative. So, pain, suffering, and improvement is relative.
There's a few things, like, you can talk shit about CrossFit in a lot of ways. They deserve it in a lot of things, but other things you can't argue. Like, one is like the positive benefits of the sport of weightlifting. I think another one is the reinforcement of the idea of scaling is so important. Scale it up for the strongest powerlifter, but if it's a good idea, like most ideas, if what you're doing is a good idea, it can be drilled down to something that applies to anybody.
Even me, like, I couldn't do full snatches, but I was doing kettlebell snatches, right? Seated kettlebell snatches, which still helped me I worked every single muscle in the snatch movement I could. I didn't have the legs, but I had everything else.
You're
and
broken,
guess what?
and it's still a fundamental movement for you.
That's exactly right.
That's really powerful.
And that's what I was saying. Like, I didn't feel. I felt like an upper half and a lower half until I got to CrossFit, and then.
Snatch still works.
Everything put me back together. Like, I remember the day where I was like, I'm moving in one piece here. I'm not two pieces anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Here, tell me what you think about this. So, Daniel Gilbert, he's a big-time researcher in positive psychology and happiness research. And
Harvard University, right?
I think it's Harvard. Yeah. He wrote a book called Stumbling on Happiness, and I think this is in that book. But he basically says that overall, given 6, maybe 12 months after anything really, really good happens to you or really, really bad happens to you, you tend to regress toward the mean and come back to your previous level of happiness, regardless of what happens to you. Whether you get paralyzed or whether you win the lottery, you win a gold medal. Like if something really, really good or really, really bad, doesn't matter. You're going to come back to right around where you were before eventually. After like the initial celebration or depression wears off, most people get back to where they were. It seems like you're kind of on that track, but I wonder how accurate that is for people overall. Like I hear being paralyzed, I'm gonna be back to my same level of happiness, and I'm like, fuck, I just can't see it. But that seems to be what happens in the research.
Listen, man, I do agree with that. People that let themselves be beat get beat, and people that beat things beat. Winners win and losers lose. It's
Can we
so
put that on Instagram picture?
it's so simple, but it's true.
Winners win, baby.
And that's just it, right? I mean,
I had the greatest discussion on that. Ron Parsons, who we're gonna get maybe on the show and do some. Ron's a sports physiologist and fight promoter and fighter himself, wrestler. This guy's bright. You can check him out on Rogan's podcast, and I want to get him on here very soon on our blog. But he's talking about how it's like some people. He told a great story about him going to his wrestling team in college, where he's like, I was always like a runt. My mindset from the beginning was I could hang with these guys. Yeah, and I knew that because that was my attitude when I played college football. I was like, I was a walk-on, undersized, slow, getting smashed daily. But my attitude was, I'll survive this, and I did because it's exactly what I said I was going to do, was just to hang. And he said I went to this big ass cool university where I was like, my definition of success is I will hang, and he did. Because that's what he said. Yep. If he walked in going, I will crush these fucking guys. I don't care how good they are. And he really believed it. Now, he may not get there, but he's gonna do a lot more than just hang. Your mindset going into something.
It's not bad. The worst thing isn't to aim.
Quote, dude. You're exactly what you got to be careful what you pretend to be, because you're exactly what you pretend to be.
And it's the dangerous thing isn't to aim high and miss. The danger is to aim low and hit. Right?
Because now you're happy. Like, oh, look, I got rewarded for what
that's the quote.
Right? Going to your point, it's
damn, that was good.
If you don't see yourself as what you want to be first, no one is ever going to see you that way. Right, so you're right. It starts with you. It starts with your attitude. My brother's a great kid, but he's naturally one of these kind of down guys, right? I got the up, he got the down, I guess. Or He's like, how do you get through it every day? And it's like, dude, it's a choice, right? Yeah. Every day is a choice. Happiness and success are choices. Now, not saying that I don't have emotional setbacks. I don't have frustrations.
We're all just angry primates underneath.
That's exactly
we
right.
all got our shit to deal with.
I'll fling my poo just like everybody else.
Yeah, we all see sugary shit go, ooh.
But then once I fling my poo, I wipe my hands off, I get the soap out, and I clean it up, and I get moving again.
Yeah.
Right?
So what kind of shit are you going to sling next? I mean, you got the Rush Club going. That's a rough transition, maybe. But you've recovered. You've done. This is an amazing story. And I want to kind of get to where you're going because we're over an hour. I want to make sure I get to this mini bit because you've had this experience. You're successful in these ventures. Everything seems really cool. You're pie in the sky now? What are you going to take a shot at? Yeah, what's your big goal now?
So my big goal is to be the first paraplegic to hike the Grand Canyon rim to rim. That was actually what I was looking for before I got hurt.
Now you can't use this bullshit trike you've got over here, can you?
No, I'm talking walk. I'm talking. Yeah. I'll use hiking poles, right? And I may use some assistance like climbing, like like a railing or something. If AJ and I have been talking about ways to modify like a
don't fall down again in that fucking canyon.
I don't want to fall off the edge.
I don't
right?
trust you anymore.
But yeah,
dude.
man, that was my. I was working. It was on my life list before I got hurt, and it was like the first thing I said in the hospital that was the thing that I regretted. Right?
Come out and videotape you doing that.
You hadn't done that yet.
Yep. I was like, God, the only thing I really can think, the only thing that keeps popping in my head is I didn't get to hike the Grand Canyon rim to rim. Then my wife comes home one day. I'm laying in bed. This is 3 days after I get home from the hospital.
Yeah.
Exhausted from PTT, and she's like, I have an idea. She said, "You're gonna hike the Grand Canyon."
And I was like, something to push for.
I was like, "Oh, sweetie, that's so cute." And that's the thing about just if I can go with this for a second is, a really big success factor too is a great support system. My wife is everything. I mean, you guys have no idea. When I couldn't move in the middle of the night, she would have to get up and reposition me 5, 10, 15 times a night, right? Depending on how much in pain I was. Yeah. Wow. Roll me over, man. So it ain't just me. But the thing about those successful partnerships and support systems are. Like even when you're in the blackness, even when you think you can't, somebody sees something in you that you don't yet see in yourself. And that kind of, and you want to rise to their occasion. You want to be the person that they think you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what's really got me going on that. And then, piece by piece, I started to get, at first it was impossible, and then maybe, and now it ain't no doubt. I got I gave myself 5 years. I got 2 more years left, and I'm at the end of my goals. Like I wanted to walk with canes. That was my ultimate goal.
Yep.
And I can actually walk without canes now, but not real well, and I fall over a lot. I can't really walk well with canes.
I heard you took some of your first steps in a CrossFit gym.
I did, yep.
Yeah.
My very first steps were in a CrossFit box without canes. That's exactly right. CrossFit Mesa, just in case anybody was curious about that.
Is that because out of all the places that you tend to go, the CrossFit gym has the highest expectations for you, or is that just the first time you decided to try it, or how that works?
A combination of the things. So one of the reasons why I stuck with it forever, or like I love it, is because for my first day I was doing black band squats, right? And I could do 3 of them myself. And basically what I was doing is pulling back.
Big heavy band.
Yeah, the black band
one
is
of the
like
biggest bands.
I think it's the 50 or 70 pounds or something like that, right? It's like ridiculous. So I'm pulling this thing, and I'm basically launching myself out of my wheelchair, right, to stand up. And I got 3, and I fell, and no one came to help me. And I was like, this is my place. I had to get back up and get in my chair myself and do it all over again. Yeah, so I felt they always let me fail, experiment, and fail there. Physical therapy, they're so worried about, you're freaking strapped into these with these gait belts and these, you're like a puppet because they're walking you because God forbid you fall,
Yeah.
But how do you get...
Not on property anyway.
Right.
You can go fall somewhere else.
Yeah, right, exactly. But so how do you if you're not pushing the envelope, you're not going to improve, right? And so that's what I see in physical therapy. Like physical therapy is incredibly important, but you need to step outside that, and that's what the CrossFit box did for me, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Allow me to push further than anybody else was comfortable letting me.
Yeah.
And that's, and it worked.
Yeah.
CrossFit gyms have done that for a lot of people, where they've set some very unrealistic expectations that you never thought you could hit, and then all of a sudden you hit them.
I call them BHAGs, big, hairy, audacious goals.
Yes, that's
that's what I don't call it. It's, it's
From good
When
to
you
great.
quit saying cool shit, because I'm trying to think, how am I going to fit all this into the show notes? I'm like, how am I going to write all this into something that makes sense? Because it's all good shit.
And then once I'm kind of already starting to think beyond that, though. Because Mount Whitney you can get to the top of without having to hand-over-hand climb. It's the highest peak in the lower 48. That might be something I might do after this. After the Grand one dragon
right
at a
after
time.
this podcast,
Right?
go.
But once I started to already look beyond the first dragon.
That's dope.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Steve,
man.
thanks for joining us today. Do you have anything you want to promote? Obviously, Rush Club.
Rush Club, you guys. We got the live stream going on. Well, but
We're in the green room now, in case we didn't announce it.
Right.
Yeah.
We're
being
ready
very
to
rock and roll.
Make it pop off tonight. But Rush Club, check that out. And
Rush Club is kind of like the mix between like fitness competitions and MMA.
Yeah, so
it's like a fight.
Yeah, so like what we're trying to do is do head to head, make it intense, raw. Bring it back to what it really should be, which is a straight up competition, and make it a little bit more spectator friendly.
And it's a
weight
class sport.
It's weight class based,
just like fighting.
So we can bias it with to make sure that the challenges are geared towards the movements and biomechanics that those that the athletes have.
You're looking to run the horses hard.
That's right. And
put a blood in the water and see what happens.
Exactly. Throw that rabbit out there and see if anybody chases
what people don't realize. I'm interested to see how this goes down, because one of the things people forget is like the big hidden X factor in like how your strength training works out. Like people go and like focus on what they wear and what they eat and how they train. Like, all good. You got to think these things through.
Yep.
But if there's not somebody there willing to kick the shit out of you and make you stronger, you ain't gonna get very strong.
Exactly.
You gotta get your ass beat.
That's it, dude.
You gotta get your ass kicked.
That's it. Like you see, if you don't have dude. Every superhero has a villain, right? If you don't, without a villain, there is no need for a hero, right? And so that's
Superman is sitting around was jerking off doing nothing.
That's right, man.
Got no job to do.
It'd be Clark Kent freaking reporting on Republicans and Democrats in Congress. He'd be in the lower chamber.
Boring shit.
Exactly.
All right, so anything else you want to promote before we go? Twitters, Instagrams, or anything like that?
Oh, we got Rush Club Nation. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. And listen, spinal cord injury awareness. You know, there's some really good Christopher Reeve Foundation. If anybody's looking to make any donations, is a really good spot to
Being
go.
Superman. Although I don't know how much jerking off he did.
He's like he was literally Superman.
Yeah, he was literally.
Yeah. So that was interesting.
But his story was a magnificent. Like, wow, what that guy was attention. Like,
Dude,
Superman.
if
broke
it
his neck,
if it wasn't for Chris Reeves, there would be no Steve Heidemann. I mean, well,
he set a hell of an
because
example.
he brought before spinal cord injury. My uncle. Quick story.
Yeah.
My uncle has a spinal cord injury. He got hit by a drunk driver running 20 years ago, and I didn't really understand. In the sea, he's sea level, high level. So he's
right.
But he walks, and obviously, laboredly, but he recovered, and he was in the hospital for a year. Right, and basically was on his own. In those days, you either did it or you didn't. Now, when Christopher Reeve came along and started putting some of the exercise-based therapies in and helping raise money for research, it's all changed, man. I mean, he lit a candle that still burns brightly today. So
It's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks, Steve.
Rock and roll.
You bet.
All right.
To learn more about how you can support the show, go to barbellshrug.com and sign up for the newsletter.